listening to Church Matters, a NorthWoods church podcast about faith, culture, and the local church. I'm your host, Lexi Bruner. Let's jump in. All right, today we have lead pastor Bobby Pell and elder Troy Lucht with us today to discuss the upcoming budget. So first, Troy, I'm going to ask you this. Why do we create and present an annual budget to our congregation each year?
Yeah, that's really 5 areas I would look at. Really, one is planning, right? We got to know what we're going to be looking at for the next year. Does it align to our mission, right? That's huge. I mean, that's a big critical step in what we do as we walk through the budget. Are we being good stewards with our money? Transparency and accountability. And so as we are preparing and then presenting to the church, we want them to be in the know. They are the church, and we want to ensure that they are aware of the direction that we're going with the church.
Bobby, you want to add anything?
No, I don't have anything to add other than I can already tell those who are just naturally listening to this podcast, this is going to be a stellar, very fun podcast. So for every nerd who is out there listening, you will enjoy this. And for every you non-nerd, just hang on. You still need it. You're welcome. That's free.
Of course, when you asked me to do the budget podcast, I was like, I wonder what that's going to be like. So,
It's going to be a blast.
That's exactly right. So can one of you guys walk us through any major budget categories for the upcoming year of 2026?
Most of the time, the major categories really don't change.
Right.
Staff is a major category. Missions is a major category. And then we have communication/administration is a category. And I believe the beyond that is ministries, or I'm pretty sure that that's a massive category as well. Then, praise the Lord, we have facilities that we're able to use. We'll talk, I'm sure, more about this, but needless to say, if you drive on the property, you can see the facilities are changing. And so that's an issue. So if you just think that facilities, communication, administration is second category, ministries, then staff, then missions are the big buckets that we would normally have on an annual basis.
Great.
That really doesn't change.
Right. So when we're talking about these major lines, do you think that there's anything that's going to stand out or is going to change from years previous?
Early on in the line items, people will see the mortgage. So again, as Bobby mentioned, you drive on the property. If you've been around here, you have seen the new construction going on. And so we will be in the mortgage phase of that once we complete the building. And so that will be a larger line item. Over the past couple of years, we have been increasing that line, knowing that we are going to go to the mortgage. So we are in a better spot going into this than we would have been if we had not had that planning going on. So that is, I would say, a big line item that people will probably see first.
Okay.
The other one, Bobby, do you want to talk through the...
Sure, yeah. So we're also making some adjustments. This will sound ominous, but Ryan Moore. We began our relationship with Ryan as a partnership with the North American Mission Board. Initially, it began that the North American Mission Board paid half of his salary. He was a church planting catalyst with the North American Mission Board, and then he was on our staff doing missions. The North American Mission Board is phasing out, and he is becoming 100% NorthWoods, if you would. 2026 will really be the last year that there is any partnership with the North American Mission Board, and we're having to pick up quite a bit of the funding that the North American Mission Board was paying towards his salary. So I'm going to take a 45-degree turn, but it connects. The church every year gives a certain percentage towards missions through what is called the Cooperative Program. It's a cooperative program in Southern Baptist. It's a choice that individual churches make. You give cooperatively. There are no dues. There's no requirement. And within that, the cooperative program funds the International Mission Board. Thank Zach and Courtney. Mm-hmm. North American Mission Board. Thank all of our church plants receive funds from the North American Mission Board that funds our seminaries. So for all of us who have graduated from Southern Baptist seminaries, you receive a discounted rate because you're a member of a Southern Baptist church. And those are the big pieces, but those are not the only pieces.
Right.
Because North American Mission Board, or NAMB, N-A-M-B, are withdrawing their partnership, we're taking 1 year and we're lowering the percentage that we give to the cooperative program from 7% to 5% to help us fund Ryan Moore's salary. Now, next year, our desire is that number would rise again. But this is allowing us to help fund Ryan. We don't know what we're going to call him yet. We'll know this probably by the annual meeting. But he's going to be doing missions and the 55 Club. He's going to be doing missions and seniors. So there's a lot of jokes that can be played right now. Okay?
Does this mean that Ryan is an official member of the 55 Club?
As far as I'm concerned, we can call him whatever we want to with the 55, but he's going to be hanging out with our 55 Club folks. And so it ought to be fun there. So that's going to be happening. And I guess before I give the microphone back to you, let me mention a couple of other staff changes. Yeah. January 1, Darren is going to be moving to where he has groups and grounds is going to be his title. And groups is really the strategy for discipleship that we are really going to be pushing on starting next year. One of the things in our elder retreat was we read an article that Tim Keller wrote about church size dynamics, and our church is growing to the place that a lot of our positions need more specificity.
Yeah.
And this is allowing us to say to Darren, hey, we need you to be focused on this area, which I think he's very good at. And so he's going to be moving to that. We'll be giving out job descriptions at the annual meeting. There's no vote on that, but it is there. And then we're also going to be hiring a 20-hour-a-week position that is basically a ministry director. They're going to be working with our staff, objectives, goals, action plans of staff. They're going to be, for me, a little bit of the tip of the spear of ministry so that everything isn't being funneled through me. It'll be funneled through this person. And we are in conversations with someone right now about being in that role.
That's great.
Once again, that job description will be given out at the annual meeting.
And so these new roles, they're going to take effect at the first of the year, is that correct?
That's correct. They would be in effect January 1.
Okay, that's great. So what is the overall percentage increase or decrease from last year's budget?
Yeah, so 25 to 26. So budget to budget. I'm going to answer this in two different ways.
Okay.
And Bobby and I have had a lot of conversations. Elders have had a lot of conversations on this because a year ago, when we were making the budget for 2025 to where we're making the budget for 2026, we're a different church now than we were a year ago. Bobby knows the numbers better, but 15% growth at that time, or 15, 20%.
Yeah, that's right. Just in January, our average attendance was basically 600. In August, September, and October, if you just combine the 3 months, our average attendance for those 3 months was 693, which is a 15% growth. And if you go back a year to November, we were averaging in the 575, 580 range. So the Lord has just been extremely kind to us. The annual difference between the 2025 budget and the 2026 budget is what?
A little over 19%.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
And that's pretty high. However, our last 13 weeks,
right,
in comparison to the budget change, is not 19%. Our last 13 weeks, that difference is what?
About 10.5%, which is in line with what we have done previous years as far as looking at any budget increases.
Yeah, exactly. This is a situation where we have substantively changed since January.
Yeah.
And so an increase of 10% is really not crazy when you're especially walking into a new building.
Right.
The expectation is that if the Lord continues to be kind to us from a growth perspective, we're going to continue to grow. And we ought to grow partially because there's going to be more space.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. More education space, more sanctuary space. Everything is growing. So you assume, right, that the growth is going to continue in the rate that it is right now.
That's right.
As we're talking about the growth, how does the building expansion build in or factor into the budget for 2026?
So we already hit on mortgage, right? That's a big line item difference. And then there's a lot of other factors. And this will be a learning year for us. We're coming into a new space. So there's things that we just don't really know. What's our utility bill going to be? We know it's going to be bigger.
Yep.
How much bigger? And so there's estimations that we have done to come up with budget line items. We may be close, we may be off, and we'll adjust going into the budget for 27. The other thing that came in play as we were in the middle of the build was the land next door.
Correct.
And so that was a factor into the budget as well. That is into the mortgage line item, but that is a piece of that number as well.
I think that the largest questions separate from facilities is if you're growing, it's also going to impact the ministry numbers. And we would expect potentially there would be more men at a men's prayer breakfast. We would expect there would be more kids at Vacation Bible School. We would expect there would be more women at a women's conference. Potentially, we're going to be in a situation that there's just more. One of the things that I really appreciate about our elders and our finance team is if we blow a line because we're reaching people, then we celebrate the blowing of the line.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay? Now, if we blow a line because we're being inappropriate, that's a different conversation that happens.
Right.
But if we're blowing the line because we're reaching people, then praise the Lord.
Right.
We're not going to allow the budget to keep us from reaching people or being mission central.
That topic Bobby hit on is multiple times we said that. If we blow this, we celebrate. We want to plan the best we can, but if we blow it because there's 100 more kids at VBS or 100 more kids at Easter, that's a win, right? And we celebrate that, and then we adjust accordingly for the next year.
Right. So how do you guys feel that we are financially as a church heading into the new year?
We're doing better. So once again, your average offering is around $25,000 a week. So to put that in perspective, we are far surpassing what budget requirement was for this year, but that is directly related to we've grown. And so the presentation of this budget does not personally make me nervous because the trajectory of our church is in an extremely healthy position, both financially as well as in attendance.
That's great.
For the nerds out there, right? Percentages and everything. So Bobby hit on that we are above budget, right? 8.8% better than budget is where we are over
Great.
the last 13 weeks.
13-week average.
Thank you. Also, due diligence. Bobby's had conversations with folks who have walked similar paths or bigger churches and talking through budget numbers to ensure that, hey, give us the smell test, right? Are we in line? And the response was, that's a conservative budget from opinions.
That's
and
good.
so that helped us know, because again, we're walking into steps.
That we've not, uncharted territory.
There's some pieces
Yeah.
of that, right? And so we want to ensure that we're consulting with others who have walked some of those similar paths so that we're not trudging in some mud that we don't want to get stuck in.
Yeah. So, Troy, you are a part of our finance committee. So I'm going to ask you this. How do we ensure that the church is stewarding resources faithfully and wisely?
Yeah, that's a great question that we look at in multiple facets, right? So we look at it from historical. So what have we been doing? Where have we gone? What do we want to do? Are we staying on mission? So there's a lot of times that we have conversations inside the finance teams. All right, is this tying to our mission? Are we making disciples who make disciples through the efforts of these dollars and actions that we're doing? We had real conversations, and there'll be some changes coming up next year because of that, because we want to ensure that we are doing that we are being good stewards with the money. We do checkpoints throughout the year, right? We got name drop Kathy, right? We said we were going to do that.
I hope she's working right now.
We invited her.
We invited her to come and she has declined, which means that we will speak ill of her. So I'm for that.
Although I see on the board that says don't speak evil.
Oh, that's true. We're in Matt's office, for those of you who do not know, and Matt always has these wonderful counseling tips. And one of them says, don't be mean and don't speak evil. And here I've broke those first two.
Yep. Yep. But Kathy does a great job in giving us numbers to be able to say, are we in line? Are we not in line? Are we tracking? Are we not? That helps us not only in the preparation. So in the preparation of doing the budget, she gives us that rolling 12-month, the last 12 months worth of expenses to say, how have we done in that 12-month period? Also for the current year, so from January to August is the time frame that we're looking at. How are we looking? So that helps us understand, did we blow a budget line and why did we do that? Or are we under budget? Can we adjust? Every line item gets scrutinized to that level to say, were we in line? If we were or were not, why? And then what are we doing that's tied to our mission with these dollars?
That's great. That's great. So if somebody looks at the budget, which we had available on Sunday, and we will also have available this coming Sunday, as well as there's a digital copy that we can link in the notes of the podcast. But if they are looking at this budget and have questions, what is the best way for them to be answered?
Yeah, so this comes out November 23rd and November 30th. I'll be available. I'll be in the Women's Ministry Director office right outside the lobby for any questions before or in between after services. So please come ask if you have any questions. Again, I hit on transparency earlier. We want to be transparent. We want to answer questions. We want unity within the church. And so questions help with that, right? And so we want to ensure that folks are having the opportunity to talk to us. I'll be there. Another elder will be in there as well. If you can't make that, find me. I'll put a plug in. I'm doing a adult Sunday school class first service upstairs. And it's a radical study by David Platt. Great study, challenging me a lot. But I'll be in that first service, but I'll be definitely around during in between services and after services to answer any questions anybody has.
That's great. Yeah. So we are gearing up for a vote or an approval of the budget, and that will be held on the first Sunday of December, which I believe is the 4th. And so what does that look like? What does a budget approval look like?
We've made some adjustments in this the last couple of years, which is to allow both services to be able to vote. And what that means is that if you wanted to make a recommendation or a change to the budget, you just need to tell us before that day.
Right.
Because if so, then all of that would be addressed at the end of the second service. If we don't hear of anybody who's wanting to make any recommendations or changes to the budget, then at the end of the first service, members will be allowed to vote. Generally, that particular vote is a hand raise, and the second service is the same way. At the end of the second service, there is a list of other things that are still voted on. We vote on who our clerk is. We vote on our treasurer. There is an affirmation of elders that happens every year at the annual meeting. There's a list of things that our bylaws require us to bring before the church. It's also at that meeting that I'll give some information about where we are debt-wise related to the building, which, by the way, as of this second, we are under budget on the building.
Praise God.
It's a big deal.
Really
That's a big deal. Please understand, that's why I said this second. Things change when you're building buildings. But things are being watched from a stewardship perspective on a faithful basis, not only with our operating budget, but also the building budget. And so there will be a hand raised vote at the end of both services unless we hear otherwise from a member who wants to make a recommendation change.
We're kind of talking about this, but why is it important that a member is involved in this vote?
Because it's your budget. I probably didn't understand this as much as I should have as a pastor. But if you're a member of the church and you're voting to approve the budget, you're taking some responsibility in saying, yeah, that's my budget.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's being funded by us.
That's right.
And so I would just ask you to take it seriously because it's yours. This is part of us being a part of a church together.
Right.
This is how we fund missions, fund church plants, do ministry in our community, all of those things. And so I want you as a member to take this seriously, look at it. If you have questions, please ask, all of those kinds of things, because in the end, ministry does cost money. If we have a biblical view of money, it's not my money anyhow. All money and all resources are the Lord's. We're simply stewards of it. But I would just simply say the reason why the vote matters is it's yours.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's every member is part of that stewardship.
That's right.
And so as someone who gives, you would want to make sure that money is being used for the purposes that God's called our church to, right?
Right.
And it's no different than a personal budget, right? So we are a church family. If my family is working on our budget at home and Amber and I are sitting there, we both have a voice in that and need to make sure we are all on the same page.
Yeah,
and so
that's great.
No different than NorthWoods here.
Absolutely. So as we wrap up, is there a way that as members or as someone listening that we can pray as we move toward this vote?
Yeah, Bobby's hit on it, right? Lord's been gracious to us, and we are thankful for his provision. And I think it's just having that heart of thankfulness first, because if we sit back and recognize where he has brought us even in the last year and the opportunities that he will have for us next year, that really is mind-blowing. But on the prayer side, I also would say unity. I hit on that earlier, just that everybody is unified, both from a dollars perspective, direction of the church, and just that we would say mission focused within the dollar spend, that there will be distractions, there'll be pop-ups, there'll be other things that will occur, right, that we didn't plan for. Something breaks, and we have budget for that. Don't think that we don't, right? But there's distractions that can occur, that we would just stay mission focused on the clear plan that God has for us.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, I would ask our church to not as much pray about a budget as to pray for our church.
Yeah.
Because if we're doing what we're supposed to be doing, dollars take care of themselves. And so pray that we stay focused on making disciples. Pray that we make the Lord known in our communities. Pray that each of us draws near to the Lord. Because as God has our hearts, I don't preach on money very much. I don't talk a lot about this. If the text does, I do. But I would just say what I've learned is money takes care of itself from a spiritual perspective when we are following Jesus. So I would just say, let's pray that more and more people follow Jesus, that disciples are made, and we stay focused on mission. And as we do that, I think we're going to find that budgets are okay.
That's great.
Yeah.
Just a quick reminder that the annual town hall meeting will be on Sunday, December 4th. But this Sunday, November 23rd, you can find hard copies of the budget as well as a digital copy will be linked in the show notes. Thanks for joining. Thanks for listening to Church Matters. Subscribe, share, and learn more at northwoodschurch.org.